Once again, parents rather throw them hands than throw on a mask. We're talking about another school board meeting that ended in physical violence. No, not with young, immature teenagers, but with old ass middle-aged adults. What happened? This time in Missouri. Brawl erupts, parents arrested after another school board meeting. According to the report, fist flew after a Missouri school board voted to simply reinstate mask mandates. Why? Because 180, let me say that number again, 180 staff members and students were potentially exposed to COVID-19. Let's show a picture of one of the parents being arrested. That was basically your scene at this school board meeting, okay? The Pleasant Hill School District had 21 confirmed cases of students testing positive for COVID in the first 9 days of the new school year. Those numbers are guaranteed to be higher now. KMBC reported. It's part of a nationwide spike in COVID cases among children, which now accounts for 26.8% of all cases in the country. When I first reported on the surge of children contracting COVID, it was at 20%. It is now headed to 30%. By next week, it may be higher than that. While school officials throughout this country, especially in places like Florida, continue to ignore the reality, while governors continue to ignore the reality. This story gets deeper. Over the last week, there were about 252,000 child cases of COVID, the largest number since the pandemic began. That's according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. To curtail the spread of the Pleasant Hill School District, the school board unanimously, everybody, all of them, not one dissent at all of them voted to reinstate mask mandates, sparking shouting matches and tense verbal exchanges during the meeting. What happened beyond the shouting match? Well, they continued to shout, even outside. Tempers boiled over after the meeting. And the parking lot turned into a fight night when arguments escalated into physical confrontations. Okay, let me say it like this, all right? The people who are at these school board meetings, they do not represent the majority sentiment of that local community. We now have the data. 70 to 75% of parents are for mask mandates inside of local schools. That is a survey. Those are actual parents that took the time, read the survey, and clicked boom, right here, I'm for this. Just because people are loud does not mean they are the majority. What you have happening now, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call a silent majority being outspoken by this minority of loudmouths. So what needs to happen? Those who are for common sense for their children, I need them to take their behinds up to these school board meetings, just like these Trumpites, and make their cases known. Let their voices be heard. Because every time we're reporting in the news cycle, we're reporting about parent outrage, but that's not even the true narrative. Parents are not outraged, not the majority of them, they are not outraged by mask mandates. Only these Trump supporters are. That's based on the data. Dina Doll, thoughts?
You know, I agree. It's the small minority, and we see it over and over again in the stories. There's so much anger there that everybody else can feel very threatened, and they know that. That's powerful. And school boards actually across the country are having this happen. One, the meetings are easy, accessible, local. Two, like I said before, They're more women than other elected representatives. And so they are being terrorized everywhere for this. And like you said, the majority of parents there actually wanted the masks. I think it's interesting too, because in Missouri is one of the few states that there's only one abortion clinic, and the Missouri Health Department actually filed to shut that down in 2019. So, this idea of, women's rights to their bodies not kind of being recognized in Missouri, and yet this group being so upset about just like a cloth mask being put over the kids.
Yeah.
We know masks work. There was actually now, we know it worked anecdotally, but there was a study coming out of India, the randomized control study, proving that it works. So there's not a question here. And we see long COVID in kids. There's not a question on their health. It's really sad that school boards here are being terrorized for doing their job and protecting children's health.
Quite ironic, right? The same people that will say to you a mask mandate is too much government intrusion to their body, but they are completely okay with telling every woman what they can and cannot do with theirs. Quite hypocritical.